Shavotov, Shalom on the Sabbath day. Welcome to the Philadelphia Assemblies. Today is the 25th day of the 10th month of the year 5780 on Yahuwah's calendar. It's the 23rd day of January 2021 on the Gregorian calendar, it's the 7th day Sabbath, known as Saturday in English. And again, if we seem to be off on the dates because we recognize the full moon as the new moon per Psalm 81 verse 3. We're going to continue our expository teaching, or actually we're going to conclude the expository teaching of the book of Proverbs. We're going to be doing 21 through 31 today. So we're going to finish it up. Hopefully we'll get done in about an hour. That's the prayer anyway. So we're going to go ahead and open up in prayer. Almighty Father Yahuwah, we praise you in all things. Father, we just praise you that we're still well, Father, that we have our health at least appears to be well. And we praise you that those that we know are still have their health and has not been stricken with this plague. We ask that you would continue to keep the hedge around all those that are seeking you, Father, that are trying to do your will, and those that are being called to do your will, Father. We ask that you would stay this plague and end it, even for those that have not yet been called, Father. We just ask that you would stay it. We again thank you for all that you've done for us, Father, and kept us and protected us and guided our steps with your Torah. We ask today that you would open our hearts and mind as we go read your book of Proverbs. And Father, ask that you would help us to expound upon them, that you would help me and give me an extra unction of your Ruach HaKodesh, that Holy Spirit of promise, to make these be your words and not mine. Again, we ask all these things in your precious Son, Yahushua's name. Amen. So we'll just go ahead and jump right in. The 21st proverb. The king's heart. Now, and I like to remind you that when they're talking about the king in here most of the time, this would be referring to King Dawood or David, because we know what Yahuwah said about his heart, that he was a man after Yah's own heart. So the king's heart is in the hand of Yahuwah. So again, knowing that David's heart was in the hand of Yahuwah. As the rivers of water, he turns it wherever he will. Yahuwah turns Dawood or the king's heart. Every way of a man is right in his own eyes, but Yahuwah ponders or searches the heart or the minds. That's what that's talking about. He searches your minds. So we talk about keeping those secret places clean and straight, because everything we do or think is in before Yahuwah, and he's the one that's measuring or pondering our hearts or our minds. So we need to keep our mind on the correct things. Verse 3 says, to do justice and judgment is more acceptable to Yahuwah than sacrifice. He loves those things much more than sacrifice, because why do you have to sacrifice? Because you didn't keep them. Okay, verse 4, and high look and a proud heart and the plowing of the wicked is sin. So the work of the wicked is sin. We can see what they do. They don't do according to Yah's right rulings or his Torah. That would be the plowing of the wicked he's talking about here. And we know a high look. You've seen people that have a high look. We want to make sure we don't have that. And a proud heart or proud attitude in mind. And he said, all sin. Verse 5, the thoughts of the diligent. Those diligent are those ones that seek his commandments or his Torah or right rulings, okay? So it says, the thoughts of the diligent tend only to plenteousness, but of every one that is hasty only to want. In other words, when you're hasty to do your own will or to do what's right in your own mind, as he said earlier here, then you're going to be wanting or in need. Okay? Verse 6, the getting of treasure by a lying tongue is vanity or worthless, tossed to and fro of them that seek death. Because whether you know it or not, if you're doing that, you're going after death. Verse 7, the robbery of the wicked shall destroy them. And that doesn't mean they have to hold somebody by gunpoint, but they're always figuring on how they're going to cheat someone. So the robbery of the wicked shall destroy them, because they refuse to do judgment. Now, the judgment that he's talking about here is the right rulings of the Torah. Verse 8, the way of man is perverse and strange, but as for the pure, his work is right. Well, the only way you're going to be pure is if you're trying to be pleasing in Yah's sight. Okay? Verse 9, it is better to dwell in the corner of the housetop than with a brawling woman in a wide house. Now, this is so important it gets repeated in another psalm before we finish. You know, and obviously if you've got a contentious wife, it's not going to be good. But Yahuwah doesn't want, Yahushua, the Messiah, doesn't want a brawling wife either, someone that's rebellious. Okay, so you got to keep in mind there's more than one meaning. This goes deep. You know, it's not just at the surface. So it is better to dwell in a corner of the housetop than with a brawling woman in a wide house or a large house. The life of the wicked desires evil. So soul here in the King James better should have been translated their life of the wicked desires evil, because that's what they go after. It says his neighbor finds no favor in his eyes. Now, that doesn't mean that his neighbor doesn't favor the wicked. That means that he finds no favor with his neighbors, the wicked. Verse 11, when the scorner is punished, the simple is made wise, because he sees that. When the wise is instructed, he receives knowledge. Verse 12, the righteous man wisely considers the house of the wicked. So in other words, he ponders, he looks upon it and sees what happens. But Elohim overthrows the wicked for their wickedness. See, that's what the wise man would see. You know, the righteous man wisely considers the house of the wicked. He watches it because Elohim overthrows the wicked for their wickedness. And if you're wise, you'll see that. Verse 13, whoever stops his ears at the crying of the poor, in other words, refuses to hear, he also shall cry himself, but shall not be heard. He'll cry because he'll be in need, but no one will hear. The Father won't hear. Verse 14, a gift in secret satisfies anger. Okay? And a reward in the bosom, strong anger. Verse 15, it is joy to the just to do judgment. So those that are wanting to be pleasing to Yahuwah is the just that they're talking about. So it's joy to the just to do judgment, or do according to his right rulings or his Torah. But destruction shall be to the workers of lawlessness. Verse 16, the man that wanders out of the way of understanding. Now, who is that wanders out of the way of understanding? The one that doesn't go according to the right rulings of the Torah shall remain in the congregation of the dead, because the penalty for sin is death. Verse 17, he that loves pleasure shall be a poor man, because he's going to spend everything he has on, wasted on pleasure. Okay? He that loves pleasure shall be a poor man. He that loves wine and oil shall not be rich, because he's going to spend his money on wine and oil. And this is only, like a proverb, when this proverb is trying to explain like a parable, okay, when it's talking about that, because the only good riches is not wine or oil, which we're going to see, but it's Yahuwah's right ruling. But if you go after the things of the flesh, You shall never be rich in the sense of pleasing to God or pleasing to Elohim. Verse 18, the wicked shall be a ransom for the righteous, and the transgressor for the upright. Now what does that mean? That's talking about the wicked shall be the ransom for the righteous. That's talking about at the white throne judgment. None of us are without sin, but the wicked are going to go into the lake of fire, and that's a type of sacrifice. It says the wicked shall be a ransom for the righteous, and the transgressor for the upright. Verse 19, it is better to dwell in the wilderness than with a contentious and angry woman. It's repeated pretty much what it said in verse 9 again. Okay, and we're going to see this in another proverb later. And again, you have to understand this contentious woman could be your wife, but it also could be talking about those that some of those that have been called to be the bride of our Messiah, or those that were called to as a bride to Yahuwah. And you can see how this all fits Israel when they were married to Yahuwah. Okay? There is a treasure to be desired, and oil in the dwelling of the wise. See, because if you're wise, you're going to have those things that was mentioned earlier. But a foolish man spends it up, the oil. Okay, and we know in the New Testament they talk about the virgins didn't have oil. This is all relative to the same thing, and talks about if you don't have the Spirit or the two swords, sell everything you have and get them, because without that Spirit of the Most High, okay, there's no way that you're going to have everlasting life. So this oil is really comparison to the spirit of Elohim, or the spirit of Yahuwah. Okay. He that followeth after righteousness and mercy finds life, righteousness and honor. He that follows after righteousness. We know what righteousness is. It's all of Yahuwah's commandments, every word that proceeds out of his mouth. So he that follows right after righteousness and mercy finds life, and at some point eternal life, righteousness and honor. Verse 22, a wise man scales the city of the mighty, or climbs the walls of the city of the mighty, and casts down the strength of the confidence of that city. I added of that city. It says thereof in the King James. Verse 23, whoever keeps his mouth or his lips and his tongue keeps his life from troubles. In other words, controls your tongue. Even though we know it's an unruly thing, you can allow the Spirit to help you control your tongue. 24, proud and haughty scorner is his name, who deals in proud anger. The desire of the lazy kills him, for his hands refuse to labor. 26. He covers greedily all the day long. In other words, he covetous. I said covers. He covetous. He's thinking on greedy ways all the day long, but the righteous give and spare not. Give to the needy and the poor. Verse 27. The sacrifice of the wicked is detestable, or an abomination. How much more when he brings it with a wicked mind? Okay? A false witness shall perish. In other words, the truth will outlive a lie. Okay? A false witness will perish. But the man that hears speaks constantly. Hears what? A false witness. In other words, he's a gossiper. The man that listens to gossip, he constantly gossiping and spreading it forward. But a false witness won't last, because the truth outlives a lie. Verse 29, a wicked man hardens his face, but as for the upright, he directs his way. Now, what's he direct his way by? The Torah, or Yahuwah's right rulings. Verse 30, there is no wisdom, nor understanding, nor counsel against Yahuwah, or none of that will stand. The horse is ready against the battle, against the day of battle. But safety is of Yahuwah. So don't put your confidence in weapons of war or horses in this case. Chapter 22 or Proverb 22. A good name is rather to be chosen than great riches. Now, what does that mean? The only way you're going to obtain a good name is by you doing according to Yahuwah's right rulings. Then others are going to see that in you and they're going to talk about it. Okay, so a good name is rather to be chosen than great riches. So in other words, watch what you do. And loving favor rather than silver and gold. Those are the true riches. Favor with who? The Most High. The rich and poor meet together. The rich and poor meet together. They're going to meet together at the white throne judgment for sure. Yahuwah is the maker of them all. A prudent man foresees the evil and hides himself or keeps himself from evil. But the simple pass on and are punished. That means that they go after the things of the flesh, and at the great white throne judgment they'll be punished. And they might be punished in flesh too, but for sure at the white throne judgment. For by humility and fear of Yahuwah are riches and honor and life, because the opposite of that is death. Thorns and traps are in the way of the perverse, or the froward in the King James. He that does keep his life shall be far from them. Those thorns and snares are traps of that perverse mind. That's what you have to avoid, or you're going to end up in the lake of fire. Verse 6. Train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. So, how do you train up a child? By doing Yahuwah's commandments and teaching them to your children. And when he's old, he won't depart from them. 7. The rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. So, if you borrow money from the rich and powerful, you're going to be in servitude to them. Okay? He that sows lawlessness shall reap nothing, or vanity, it says in the King James, and the rod of his anger shall fail of that person. When you get angry, when you sow lawlessness, your rod's going to fail you, your strength. Verse 9, he that has a bountiful eye, that means an eye that sees plenty, shall be blessed, for he gives of his bread to the poor. Verse 10, cast out the scorner, and contention shall go out. So it'll go away. If you've got somebody that's constantly on the negative, it says cast that one out. And it says, yes, strife and reproach shall cease. It'll go away. Verse 11, he that loves pureness of heart, for the grace of his lips, the king shall be his friend. So in other words, someone that loves to be pure at heart, his words will he be known by, the grace of his lips, the king shall be his friend. And in this case, they'd be talking about the king of Israel and preference David or David. Verse 12, the eyes of Yahuwah preserve knowledge, and he overthrows the words of the transgressor, those ones that break his commandments. 13, the lazy man says, there is a lion outside, I shall be slain in the streets. Gives that for an excuse not to go out and do anything. The mouth of the strange woman is a deep pit. Actually, he's talking about a grave. He that is hated by Yahuwah shall fall therein, or fall in that pit. Foolishness is bound in the heart of a child, but the rod of correction shall drive it far from him. Now, a lot of people take this as beating your kids, and that's not at all what that's talking about. Obviously, there's times when your children need to be disciplined, but the rod of correction should be Yahuwah's word. It should be his right rulings. So foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child. But if you teach him the way Yahuwah's right rulings, and how do you do that? By doing them yourself. Okay? Then he says, but the rod of correction shall drive it far from him. He that oppresses the poor to increase his riches, and he that gives to the rich shall surely come to want or be in need. Because why would you give them to the rich except to find favor? And we're going to see over and over again, we can't be a respecter of persons in any fashion. Bow down your ear and hear the words of the wise, or listen, and apply your heart or your mind unto knowledge. For it is a pleasant thing if you keep them within you. Okay? They shall be fitting in your lips, his commandments. Verse 19, that your trust may be in Yahuwah. That's the only way they're going to be, if you're keeping his Torah, his right rulings. I have made known to you this day, especially to you. Okay? To the one that's reading this, and the one that's reading this and has the heart for it is Israel. Was Israel then, is Israel now, of the commonwealth of Israel. Verse 20, have not I written to you excellent things in counsels and knowledge, that I might make you know the certainty of the words of truth? And the words of truth are the words of Yah, or Yahuwah, that you might answer the words of truth to them that sinned unto you. So in other words, you have to be placing Yahuwah's words up in your heart, so that when you are asked, you're ready to render those to that are in need. Verse 22, rob not the poor. Now, if you don't tell them the truth, you don't give Yah's right rulings to them, then you're withholding from the poor. This is also poor. It could be poor of food, or you could be destitute of the word. Rob not the poor, because he is poor. Neither oppress the afflicted in the gate, for Yahuwah will plead their cause. You see that over and over again. Yahuwah pled the cause of Israel. For Yahuwah will plead their cause and spoil the life of those that spoil them, or rob them. Make no friendship with an angry man, and with a hot-tempered or furious man you shall not go, lest you learn his ways and get yourself in a trap, get in a trap to your life or your soul. Be not you one of them that give pledges, in other words, or make promises, or of them that guarantee for debts. If you have nothing to pay, why should he take away your bed from under you? Remove not the ancient landmark which your fathers have set. See you a man diligent in his business, he shall stand before kings. He shall not stand before obscure men, or mean, or it says mean, but it means obscure men, lowly men. So don't remove the landmarks. How do we do that? We don't infringe on our neighbor's property, but those landmarks are also talking about Yahuwah's right rulings that keep us on the right path as well. Chapter 23. When you sit to eat with a ruler, consider diligently what is before you, and put a knife to your throat if you be a man given to appetite. In other words, that you tend to overindulge. Be not desirous of his delicacies, for they are deceitful food. Now, obviously, we know we're not to eat of anything unclean, but also this may be also for saying that his food could be his wickedness as well. Labor not to be rich. In other words, don't put all your effort into becoming rich of money. Cease from thine own wisdom. In other words, lean unto Yahuwah's right rulings, not into your own understanding. Will you set your eyes upon that which is nothing? For riches certainly make themselves wings. In other words, easily gotten gain soon depart a fool. You've probably heard that before. They fly away as an eagle toward the Shamayim, or heaven. That's what easy come, easy go. All that things you've heard like that. Eat you not the bread of him that has an evil eye. That's what it tells you, you shouldn't even eat with people like that. Neither desire you his delicacies. For as he thinks in his mind, so is he. Eat and drink, says he to you, but his mind or his heart is not with you. He's thinking about how he can take advantage of you. The morsel which you have eaten shall you throw up, and lose your sweet words. Notice it's saying words here. Speak not in the ears of a fool. In other words, don't cast your pearl before swine, for he will despise the wisdom of your words. Remove not old landmarks, here we are again, and enter not into the fields of the fatherless. Don't try to steal the property from widow women and fatherless orphans. For their Redeemer is mighty, which we know their Redeemer is Yahuwah. He shall pledge there, those ones that do that, cause with you. Okay? For their Redeemer is mighty. So in other words, he's going to go against you for them. Apply your heart or your mind unto instruction. And again, his right rulings or his Torah or his instruction. And your ears to the words of knowledge. That's the same. 13. Withhold not correction from your child. For if you beat him with the rod, he shall not die. Now, again, that doesn't mean beat your kids to death. And more than anything, that's talking about keep teaching them the scripture over and over again. You shall beat him with the rod of correction should be Yahuwah's word, and shall deliver his life from Sheol, says hell in the King James, which means the grave. Because at some point, he's going to suffer the second death if you don't do that. Okay? Verse 15, my son, if your heart be wise, or your mind be wise, my mind shall rejoice, even mine. Yes, my innermost being shall rejoice when your lips speak right things, which is right rulings. Let not your heart envy sinners, but you be in fear of Yahuwah all the day long. For surely there is an end, and your expectation shall not be cut off if you follow his right rulings. You won't be cut off by that second death. Hear you, my son, and be wise, and guide your mind or heart in the way. Be not among wine-bibbers, among riotous eaters of flesh. Now, that's not talking about people that eat meat, okay? Rioters, eater of flesh, are these rich people that are feeding on the others, okay? He says, don't be among drunkards or wine-bibbers, or among riotous eaters of flesh. We see that. See it now in our own times. Riotous eaters of flesh, ready to kill, to spill innocent blood, running to do that. That's what it's talking about. For the drunkard and the glutton, and the glutton is a covetous person that's going after what someone else has, shall come to poverty, and drowsiness shall clothe a man of rags. Now, if you're drowsy, you're going to become slothful or lazy. That's what that's talking about in this, like a parable. Listen unto your father that gave you life, says that begot you. in the King James, that gave you life. Ultimately, that's being the Most High. But in life, we have flesh and blood parents here. It says, listen unto your father that gave you life, and despise not your mother when she is old. That's the commandment with first commandment of promise, to respect your elders here, or your mother and father, and you'll have long life. But by the truth. Now, again, the truth only comes through the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit. So sell what you have, get that sword of truth, and then it says, and sell it not. So obviously it's not once saved, always saved. You got to hang on to the Spirit. Also wisdom and instruction and understanding. That all comes through the Ruach. The father of the righteous shall greatly rejoice. And that's the Father Yahuwah. And he that has a wise child shall have joy of him. Okay, so if we're a wise child of our Father, whether that be our fleshly father, he'll have joy in us in his lifetime, but the Most High will have joy in us too. And ultimately, that's the one that matters. Your father and your mother shall be glad, and she that bare you shall rejoice. My son, give me your heart, and let your eyes observe my ways, Yahuwah's ways. For a prostitute is a deep ditch, and an adulterous woman is a narrow pit. And that's all talking about where that leads. And, we know that the nation of Israel as a whole, not individually, was an adulterous woman and spoken of as a prostitute and a narrow pit. And some of those that were like that are going to be in the grave, in Sheol. Okay? Verse 28. She also lies in wait as for a prey, and increases the transgressors among men. Okay? Causes other men to sin. Now, did not Israel, of the nation of Israel, cause others around them to sin because they rejected the word of the Most High? You got to look more than just in the surface of these things. Woe, who hath woe? In other words, who hath sorrow, great sorrow, or distress, probably woe. Who hath sorrow? Who hath contentions? Who hath babbling? Who hath wounds outside their cause? Who has redness of the eyes? They that tarry long at the wine. They that go to seek mixed wine. That's talking about mixing different drinks. Anybody ever had a night when you mix different drinks? Look not you upon the wine when it is red, when it gives his color in the cup, when it moves out itself aright. At last it bites like a serpent. See, that's what happens when you get caught up in wine. And stings like an adder. Your eyes shall behold strange women. So it's going to excite lust in you. And your heart, and it says, and your mind, it says heart in the King James means mind, shall utter perverse things. Come out of your mouth. Because it weakens you spiritually. Yes, you shall be as he that lies down in the midst of the sea, or as he that lies up on the top of a mast. They have stricken me. Shall you say that I was not sick? They have beaten me. Talking about the drink. And I felt it not. Because you've been drinking. When I say, when shall I awake? When shall I kick off this stupor I'm adding? I will seek it yet again. Talking about drinking. You ever know someone that had a drinking problem? They get up the next morning and start drinking right as soon as they got up. Proverbs 24. Be not you envious against evil men, or envious of evil men, neither desire to be with them. Okay? For their heart studies destruction, and their words talk of mischief. Through wisdom is a house built, and by understanding it is established. Now, you build a physical house, you got to have a little wisdom to be able to sit down and build a house. But when you're going to set up a family, and by understanding, it is established. And by knowledge shall the chambers be filled with all precious and pleasant riches. A wise man is strong, yes, a man of knowledge increases strength. For by wise counsel you shall make your war. Now, that doesn't mean physical war, getting out and killing people. Okay, you whatever your cause is your war. And in the multitude of counselors there is safety. Wisdom is too high for a fool. I think I should back up and say, that's why, when you hear a thing, you have to prove all things to be true. Because think of what that just says. It said, for by wise counsel. So, and the only way you're going to get wise counsel is seek that. Okay? And that means to go out and do your own research and make sure what's true. Okay? So, for by wise counsel you make your war or your commitment. And in a multitude of counselors there is safety. Wisdom is too high for a fool. In other words, he can't attain it. It's out of his reach. He opens not his mouth in the gate. He that devises to do evil shall be called a mischievous person. The thought of foolishness is sin, and the scorner is detestable to men, or an abomination to men. Verse 10, if you are lazy in the day of adversity, your strength is small, or you have little. If you forbear to deliver them that are drawn into death, in other words, if you don't cut yourself off from wicked ones, if you forbear to deliver them that are drawn unto death, those that are not keeping Yahuwah's counsel are drawn into death, and those that are ready to be slain in the lake of fires, where they're ready to be slain. If you sayest, behold, we knew it not, you didn't know it. If you say that you didn't know, does not he ponder the heart, consider it? He that ponders the heart, consider it? Or does Yahuwah not consider that? And he that keeps your life, does not he know it? In other words, there's nothing that you're doing hidden from the Most High. And shall not he render to every man according to his works? He says he will in his word. My son, eat you honey, because it is good, and the honeycomb, which is sweet to your taste. In other words, eat that what is good, but eat just enough that's good. Okay, don't eat it all. We're going to see that. So shall the knowledge of wisdom be unto your life. When you have found it, then there shall be a reward, and your expectation shall not be cut off. Okay, and that they're comparing here. Honey later on, they're going to talk about, compare it to something else. That's what I was speaking of earlier. So shall your knowledge, okay, just as you eat the honey and the honeycomb, so shall the knowledge of wisdom shall be sweet to you, be unto your mind, or to your life. When you have found it, then there shall be a reward, and your expectation shall not be cut off in the day of judgment. Lay not a weight, O wicked man, against the dwelling of the righteous. Destroy not his resting place. For a just man falls 7 times, and rises up again. But the wicked shall fall into mischief. Rejoice not when your enemy fails, and let not your heart be glad when he stumbles. Lest Yahuwah see it, and if he's stumbling, Yahuwah's the one that shoved him to make him stumble. Okay? So don't be laughing when your enemy stumbles. Okay? Lest Yahuwah see it, and it displease him, and he turn away his wrath from him. Okay? And turn it on you. Okay? Fret not yourself, or worry not. Don't you worry because of evil men. Neither be you envious at the wicked. In other words, if they're those rich people, don't envy them. For there shall be no reward to the evil man on the day of judgment. The candle of the wicked shall be what? Put out. And that's the second death. My son, fear you Yahuwah and the king. Okay? And even now, fear Yahuwah and the king, even though the king may not always be righteous. And meddle not with them that are given to charge. Whoever Yahuwah has put in charge, don't meddle with them. Okay? For their calamity shall rise suddenly. And who knows the ruin of them both? Okay? The king or the one that meddles with the king. These things also belong to the wise. It is not good to have respect of persons in judgment. He that saith unto the wicked, you are righteous, him shall the people curse. Now, there's a lot of that going on. You can look at somebody and you can tell that their life is wicked, and everybody running around saying that person is righteous. Him shall the people curse. Nations shall hate him. But to them that rebuke him shall be delight, and good blessing shall come upon them. Those that rebuke those that are going against those that are in charge. 26. Every man shall praise his lips that give a right answer. In other words, when someone tells the truth, you give praise to that. Okay? Prepare your work outside and make it fit for yourself in the field, and afterward build your house. Okay? Make sure the work that you put together your life with is done in honor and in good, and not based on wickedness. Be not a witness against your neighbor without a cause. In other words, don't go against your neighbor. Don't bear false witness against your neighbor. And deceive not with your lips. That's all that's saying. Don't bear false witness against your neighbor. 29. Say not, I will do so to him as he hath done to me. I will render to the man according to his work. Vengeance is mine, saith Yahuwah. I'm adding that. Okay? He didn't tell us to do unto them as he did unto us. He said for us to pray for him, and he'll take care of them. Okay? So make sure you understand what's going on. Don't think an eye for an eye is for you to take it. Okay? Yahuwah is the one that takes vengeance, not us. 29. Say not, I will do all. I already read that. Verse 30. I went by the field of the lazy, and by the vineyard of the man lacking understanding. And lo, it was grown over with thorns and nettles, and had covered the hole, and the stone of the wall thereof was broken down. You know, like a walled city. And it was all broken down because the lazy one here wasn't taking care of what Yahuwah gave him. Okay? And that's talking about your life more than it is about your physical possessions. Okay? Verse 32. Then I saw and considered it well. I looked upon it and received instruction, the right rulings of Yahuwah. Yet a little sleep, a little slumber, that's when we die, a little folding of the hands to sleep, so shall your poverty come as a bum or a vagabond, and your want as an armed man. If you slumber and you're lazy and you don't keep his right rulings, his instructions. Proverb 25. These are also Proverbs of Solomon, which the men of Hezekiah, king of Yehuda, copied out. It is the glory of Elohim to conceal a thing, but the honor of kings is to search out a matter. Now, that's all of us, okay? If we one day want to be a king and a priest in the world to come, okay? You have to seek out the truth. It doesn't jump out to you. If you just listen to what everybody says around you, You're not going to seek a matter out. But remember, it's up to Elohim to cover or conceal a thing, but to the honor of kings is to search out a matter. The Shamayim are the heaven for height, and the earth for depth, and and the heart of kings is unsearchable by us, okay, but not by Yahuwah. Take away the dross from the silver. That's what we need to do, be doing on our own inner man, our being, who we are, okay? We need to be taking away the dross from the silver, and there shall come forth a vessel for the refiner. Take away the wicked from before the king, and his throne shall be established in righteousness. Now, you can't physically do that, but if the king seeks after Yahuwah's right rulings, if he does according to those things, his throne will be established in righteousness. Not about our judgment of it, okay? Do not exalt yourself in the presence of authority or king, or of the king, and stand not in the place of great men. In other words, it's not our position to do that. We weren't called for that. We were called to the kingdom of the Most High. Okay? Yahuwah puts people in charge and he takes them out. Okay? For better it is that it be said unto you, come up here, than you should be put lower in the presence of the prince whom your eyes have seen. I think I left out something. Let's read verse 6 again. Maybe I need to read those together. It says, do not exalt yourself in the presence of the king. In other words, sit in the back. And stand not in the place of great men. You know, if they got orders of things. Because it's better, like for Yahuwah to call us from the back. Okay? For better it is that it be said unto you, come up here, than that you should be put lower. In other words, you get up there and say, hey, you need to go over and sit down in the back. Okay? In the presence of the prince whom your eyes have seen. Go not forth hastily or in a hurry, okay, to strive or to cause conflict, lest you know not what to do in the end thereof, when your neighbor hath put you to shame. Debate your cause with your neighbor himself. In other words, don't go and plot and plan against him. Go to him and tell him what your problem is, and betray not the secret to another. Don't be a gossiper. In other words, if he did something wrong to you, take it to him. Okay, lest he that heareth it put you to shame. Okay, lest he that heareth it put you to shame, and your infamy not be turned away. In other words, the person's infamous. If you do something like that, you're going to have infamy. You're going to be living in those people's mind, and infamy shall not be turned away. A word fitly spoken is like apples of gold and pictures of silver. That's how a word fittingly spoken, a correct word spoken. As an earring of gold and an ornament of fine gold, so is a wise reprover. That means someone that does his research and proves a thing upon an obedient ear. As the cold of snow in the time of harvest, so is a faithful messenger to them that send him. He refreshes the life of his masters. So, especially with Yahuwah, if he's called you and you become a faithful messenger, you're going to be a refreshing to the souls of the ones that sent you. Whoso boasts himself of a false gift is like clouds and wind without rain. Means make a lot of noise but nothing happening. By long forbearing or by patience is a prince persuaded, and a soft tongue breaks the bone. A whole lot more than a big mouth. Haste you found, have you found honey? Question, have you found honey? Eat so much as is sufficient for you, lest you be filled there with it and vomit, or throw it up. In other words, overeat. Withdraw your foot from your neighbor's house, lest he be weary of you and hate you. Now think about that. You can outlive your welcome, hanging around all the time. Verse 18, a man that bears false witness against his neighbor is a club, says the Maul in the King James, and a sword and a sharp arrow. A man that bears false witness, because he can cause you great harm. 19, confidence in an unfaithful man in a time of trouble is like a broken tooth. You ever have a broken tooth or a bad toothache? And a foot out of joint. Confidence in someone that's not faithful. So if you're around somebody that constantly says, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, that's what it's talking about. Okay? Unfaithful. Verse 20, as he that takes away a garment in cold weather, and as a vinegar upon soda. You ever put vinegar on soda? It causes a reaction and it foams up. So is he that sings songs to a heavy heart. In other words, never does anything, but just sings songs. Verse 21, if your enemy be angry, give him bread to eat. And this is vengeance is mine, saith Yahuwah. And if he be thirsty, give him water to drink. We heard our Messiah say this. For you shall heap coals of fire upon his head, and Yahuwah shall reward you. The north wind drives away rain, so does an angry attitude, a backbiting tongue. It is better to dwell in the corner of the housetop. Here we go again. It's better to dwell in the corner of the housetop than with a brawling woman and in a large house. Going right back to that. And again, this is more talking about Israel being the father's wife, okay? And it's better to be over in the corner by yourself than to be in a big house or a big family with a brawling woman. As cold waters to a thirsty soul, so is good news from a far country. A righteous man falling down before the wicked is as a troubled fountain and a corrupt spring. In other words, a righteous man falling down and begging to wicked people is as a troubled fountain. That means one that's got all kinds of waves and discourse going on, and a corrupt or a poison spring. 27, it is not good to eat too much honey. They just said much honey. So for men to search their own glory is not glory. In other words, Messiah said, don't give yourself praise, let someone else praise you. Because your own praise is not praise. But if another speaks of you, then it is. Verse 28, he that hath no rule over his own attitude is like a city that is broken down and without walls. Proverb 26. As snow in summer, that's out of place, and as rain in harvest, so honor is not fitting for a fool. It's out of place. As the bird by wandering, as the swallow by flying, so the curse causeless shall not come. What does that mean? All that's talking about is if all bad things are happening to you, then it's because you're foolish. Okay? Honor is not fitting for you. Okay? It's saying, as a bird by wandering, as the swallow by flying, so the curse is causeless shall not come on you. In other words, for no reason. A whip for the horse, a bridle for the donkey, and a rod for the fool's back. That's what's going to happen to you. If you're foolish, you're going to keep bringing sorrow and correction to yourself. Answer not a fool according to his folly, lest you also be like him. Answer a fool according to his folly. In other words, point his folly out to him, lest he be wise in his own consent. In other words, he'll think he's wise and he's really a fool. He that sends a message by the hand of a fool cuts off the feet and drinks damage. Okay? So, you don't send a message by a fool, because he's not going to give the same message that you gave him, because he's a fool. Okay? Verse 7, the legs of the lame are not equal. They're not the same length. That's why he's lame. So is a parable. That's what most of these proverbs are spoken like, a parable, in the mouth of fools. They don't get it. As he that binds a stone in a sling, so is he that gives honor to a fool. When you put a stone in a sling, you're getting ready to kill something with it. Okay? You're doing the same thing if you give honor to a fool. As a thorn goes up into the hand of a drunkard, so is a parable in the mouth of fools. The great Elohim that formed all things both rewards the fool and rewards the transgressor. How's he going to do that? With the lake of fire, because you're going to be rewarded by your deeds. Okay? As a dog returns to his vomit, so a fool returns to his folly. See you a man wise in his own conceit. In other words, someone thinks he thinks he's smart, but everybody around him knows he's not. There is more hope for a fool than for him. The lazy man says, there is a lion. Here we heard this again repeated. There is a lion in the way. A lion is in the street. In other words, he's lazy. That's an excuse not to go to the street. As the door turns open its hinges, so does the lazy upon his bed. Okay? When you open the door and then it returns back on itself, so does the lazy man return to his bed. I hope you get that. Verse 15, the lazy hides his hand in his bosom. Okay? And it grieves him to bring it again to his mouth. Too lazy to even feed himself. Verse 16, the sluggard or the lazy is wiser in his own conceit than 7 men that can render a reason. In other words, someone that has some understanding. He that passes by and meddles with strife belongs not to him. Okay? He that passes by and gets involved with strife belongs not to him. Is like one, in other words, doesn't mind his own business, is like one that takes a dog by the ears. As a madman who casts firebrands, arrows, and death, so is the man that deceives his neighbor and says, I am not joking. Verse 20, where no wood is, in other words, this is all talking about your mouth, things that are coming out. Okay, talking about how it starts strife. Where no wood is, there the fire goes out. Okay, so if you don't keep causing strife, strife will go away. So where there is no gossip, the strife ceases. As coals are to burning coals and wood to fire, so is a contentious man to kindle strife, to keep it going. The words of a gossip or a talebearer are as wounds, and they go down into the innermost parts of the heart. Belly here could have been translated heart, or either way, because it's talking about you into your being, who you are. Burning lips and a wicked heart are like broken pieces of pottery covered with silver dross. He that hates disguises with his lips. In other words, when you lie. Okay, he that's a hater disguises with his lips and lays up deceit within himself. When he speaks fair, in other words, when he's flattering you, when he speaks fair, believe him not. For there are 7 abominations. or detestable things in his heart or in his mind that he's plotting against you. Whosoever hates is covered by deceit. His wickedness shall be showed before the whole congregation. I mean, I don't care if someone's wicked and they hang around long enough, you're going to be able to discern that they're wicked. And the whole congregation of the Most High will discern that in time. Whoever digs a pit shall fall therein. In other words, you plant a trap for somebody else, it's really going to catch you. And he that rolls a stone to roll over somebody else, it will return upon him. A lying tongue hates those that are afflicted by it. In other words, who he turns his lying tongue to. And a flattering mouth works ruin. Someone that's flattering you, he's really deceiving you and trying to work, he's working against you. Proverb 27, boast not yourself of the morrow, for you know not what a day may bring forth. In other words, don't speak highly because you don't know. You better say, if Yahuwah will. Okay? Let another man praise you. Going right back to that same precept. If you praise yourself, you're not praiseworthy. It says, let another man praise you and not your own mouth. A stranger and not your own lips. A stone is heavy and the sand weighty, but a fool's anger is heavier than them both. Fury is cruel and anger is outrageous, but who is able to stand before envy? See how terrible those fury and anger, but who's able to stand before envy? Open rebuke is better than secret love. Faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. You ever heard that old song? He says, keep your friends near and your enemies closer. The full life despises a honeycomb, if we're comparing it to knowledge. But to the hungry soul, every bitter thing is sweet. If you're hungry for the truth, every bitter thing in the word is sweet. As a bird wanders from her nest, so is a man that wanders from his place. He doesn't stay on the path of righteousness. Ointment and perfume rejoice the heart. So does sweetness of a man's friend by hearty counsel. In other words, a real friend by hearty counsel. Your own friend, it says again, your own friend and your father's friend forsake not. You ever have a friend, a real good friend of your father's? He's probably going to be a friend of yours. Okay? So it says, forsake not, neither go into your brother's house in the day of your calamity, for better is a neighbor that is near than a brother that is far off. My son, be wise and make my heart glad, that I may answer him that reproaches me. In other words, my son, be wise and make my heart glad, that I may answer him that reproacheth me. A prudent man foresees the evil and hides himself. In other words, he could see what's going on with the wicked and he keeps himself from that wickedness. But a simple man passes right on and gets involved and are punished. Take his garment, that is a guarantee, okay, a guarantee of a stranger, and take a pledge of him for a adulterous woman. He that blesses his friend with a loud voice, rising early in the morning, it shall be counted a curse to him. In other words, you got a good friend, and you start hollering at him early in the morning, first thing, it's going to be counted as a curse to you. Continually drooping in a very rainy day and a contentious woman are alike not good. And again, this is speaking of Israel being a contentious woman. Okay, obviously it can fit in the physical too. Whoever hides her, or protects the contentious woman, hides the wind. You can't hide the wind. Can't see the wind, but you can certainly see the effects of the wind. And the same thing with a contentious woman. And the ointment of his right hand, which betrays itself. See what I'm talking about? The woman that's not the right woman, the bride, betrays herself, shows her own hand. Verse 17, iron sharpens iron. So a man sharpens the attitude of his friend. So if you hang around with wicked or angry and venomous people, you're going to end up that way. But if you hang around with people that, go along with the word of Yahuwah and absorb that, then iron's going to sharpen iron either way. Verse 18, whoever keeps the fig tree, whoever tends it, shall eat the fruit thereof. So if you tend a wicked tree, you're going to eat the fruit thereof. You tend a righteous tree, you'll eat the fruit thereof. You ever hear your mom say, birds of a feather flock together? I remember my mom telling me that. So he that waits on his master shall be honored. In other words, waits on his master. And if your master is Yahuwah, you'll be honored. As in water, as water on your face, okay, reflects your face. Okay, so you ever look into the face of the water and you see your own face? That's what this is talking about. I know it's a little cumbersome in the wording, but as you look into the face of the water, you could see your own face. So is the heart of man to man. In other words, they can see you by your deeds. Sheol, or the grave, got hell in the King James in 20. Sheol, or the grave, and destruction are never full. So the eyes of man are never satisfied. Never get enough. The grave's never full. That's where you hear people say, hell's not half full right now, and the grave's never going to be full until all men die. As the refining pot for silver and the furnace for gold, so is a man to his praise. In other words, if you get praised by the wicked and you hear that, not good. If you go the other way, it'd be very good to you. Verse 22. Though you should grind a fool in a mortar, you know what a pestle and mortar is, among grain, with a pestle, yet will not his foolishness depart from him. You ever heard you could take the boy out of the country, but you can't take out the country out of a boy? Well, you could take a fool and you can grind him, but his foolishness will still be there. Verse 23, be you diligent to know the state of your flocks, and look well to your herds, for riches are not forever. Now the word appreciate what you got, because they're not forever. And doth the crown endure to every generation? The rich crown, not necessarily. It might for a time, but it will fail. The hay appears, and the tender grass shows itself, and herbs of the mountains are gathered. This is talking about the harvest of Yahuwah. Okay? The lambs are for your clothing. Okay, so the lambs, they produce wool. And the goats are the price of the field. Okay? The goats are the price of the field. And you shall have goats' milk enough for your food. So in other words, this is saying I think it's saying that goat's milk is good for you and it's good for food. And if you keep goats, these things work together, but this is all metaphoric too. For the food of your household and for the nourishment of your maidens. And if you have the nourishment of your maidens is like, well, most women naturally breastfeed their young, but some don't have milk. And the nourishment of your maidens here would be nourishment of the babies. That's what this is talking about, the little ones. Chapter 28, or Proverbs 28. The wicked flee when no man pursues. They run when nobody's chasing them. That's how sometimes a police officer knows maybe who did it. They just look around and see who's running, okay? Because the wicked flee even if no one's pursuing them. But the righteous are bold as a lion. For the transgression of a land, many are the princes thereof. So in other words, the more wicked the land, the more chiefs they are. You ever hear the word, too many chiefs, not enough Indians, followers? That's what that's talking about. But by a man of understanding and knowledge, the state thereof shall be prolonged. Okay, so listen to that. But by a man of understanding and knowledge, the state thereof shall be prolonged. That's talking about a country that's led by someone that has understanding, which it doesn't help unless they have understanding of the word. And even though they might not have all understanding, they have some understanding. They even quote scripture, leaders. Verse 3, a poor man that oppresses the poor is like a sweeping rain which leaves no food. That's what an oppressor does. And that goes on all the time. They that forsake the Torah, or the right rulings, praise the wicked. But such as keep the Torah contend with them. In other words, with the powerful, the rich and powerful, they contend with them for the poor's sake. Okay? Verse 5, evil men understand not judgment, not righteous judgment, but they that seek Yahuwah understand all things. Better is the poor that walks in his uprightness, or according to Yahuwah's right rulings, than he that is perverse in his ways, though he be rich. Whoever keeps the Torah is a wise son, but he that is a companion of riotous men shames his father. He that by usury or interest and unjust gain increases his substance, he shall gather it for him that will pity the poor. Okay? He that by usury and unjust gain increases his substance, he shall gather it for him that will pity the poor. Okay? So what that means is the unrighteous guy is not going to hang on to it. It's going to end up going to those that pity the poor. He that turns away his ear from hearing the Torah, even his prayer shall be an abomination. Now, if they don't have the Torah and they don't understand the Torah, then all his prayer is not an abomination. It's he that turns away his ear from hearing the Torah, even his prayer shall be an abomination. Whoever causes the righteous to go astray in an evil way, he shall fall himself into his own pit. And ultimately, that's going to be the second death. But the upright shall have good things in possession. The rich man is wise in his own understanding or conceit, but the poor that hath understanding searches him out, tests him to show him to be not worthy or wanting. Verse 12, when righteous men do rejoice, there is great glory, but when the wicked rise, a man is hidden. He that covers his sins, in other words, conceals his sins, shall not prosper. But whosoever confesses and forsakes them, in other words, turns away or repents, shall have mercy. Happy is the man that fears always, but he that hardens his heart shall fall into mischief. As a roaring lion and a roving bear, so is a wicked ruler over the poor. The prince that lacks understanding is also a great oppressor. But he that hates covetousness shall prolong his days. A man that does violence to the blood of any people shall flee to the pit until death. Shall flee until death. Let no man support him, keep him, protect him. Whoever walks uprightly shall be saved, but he that is crooked or perverse in his ways shall fall at once, quickly. He that works his land shall have plenty of bread, but he that follows after worthless people shall have poverty enough. A faithful man shall abound with blessings, but he that makes haste to be rich shall not be innocent. To have respect of persons is not good. See, here we go again. We know our Father is not a respecter of persons. For a piece of bread that man will sin or transgress. He that hates to be rich has an evil eye. He that hurries to be rich, in other words, that's his desire, not any other thing, has an evil eye, and considers not that poverty shall come upon him. He doesn't understand that. He that rebukes a man afterwards shall find more favor than he that flatters with the tongue. Whoever robs his father or his mother and says it is no transgression, the same is the companion of a destroyer, or of the destroyer, Satan, Satan. He that is of a proud heart stirs up strife, but he that puts his trust in Yahuwah shall be made fat. And I mean, if you see the opposite of that, you all have to understand that he didn't put his trust in Yahuwah, anybody. 26, he that trusts in his own heart is a fool, but heart means his own power here in this case, is a fool. But whosoever walks wisely, he shall be delivered. He that gives unto the poor shall not lack, but he that hides his eyes shall have many a curse. When the wicked rise, men hide themselves, but when they perish, the righteous increase. Wicked men perish. Proverbs 29. He that being often reproved or corrected, hardens his neck. Someone that has to be corrected always gets a stiff neck. He gets stubborn. Shall suddenly be destroyed, and that without remedy. We can see that been going on lately, can't we? If you want to be honest. Verse 2. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked bear rule, the people mourn. Whoever loves wisdom rejoices his father, or praises his father. But he that keeps company with harlots spends his substance on harlots. The king by judgment establishes the land. I mean, if he's going by correct judgment, right rulings. But he that receives gifts overthrows it. In other words, he gets bought off. 5. A man that flatters his neighbor spreads a net for his feet, tries to capture him. In the transgression of an evil man there is a trap, but the righteous does sing and rejoice. The righteous considers the cause of the poor, but the wicked regards it not. Scornful men bring a city into a trap, but wise men turn away anger. If a wise man contends with a foolish man, whether he rage or laugh, there is no rest. Because you can't reason with the fool. The bloodthirsty hate the upright, but the just seek his life. A fool utters all his mind, but a wise man keeps it till afterwards, holds it till afterwards. If a ruler listens to lies, all his servants are wicked. The poor and the deceitful men meet together. Yahuwah lightens both their eyes, enlightens them, gives them understanding. The king that faithfully judges the poor, his throne shall be established forever. Not here on earth, but in the kingdom to come. The rod of correction gives wisdom, but a child left to himself, to his own understanding, brings his mother to shame. When the wicked are multiplied, transgression increases, but the righteous shall see their fall. Correct your son, and he shall give you rest. Yes, he shall give delight unto your life. Where there is no vision, the people perish. But he that keeps the Torah, happy is he, or the right rulings. A servant will not be corrected by a servant will not be corrected by words. Okay, so sometimes there's got to be more than words. For though he understand, he will not answer. See you a man that is hasty in his words? In other words, doesn't think before he speaks. There is more hope of a fool than of him. In other words, don't say things that you don't mean. Think before you speak. He that pampers his servant from a child shall have him become his son at the length. In other words, his servant will love him like a son loves a father at the end. 22. An angry man stirs up strife, and a furious man abounds in transgression or sin. A man's pride shall bring him low or bring him down, but honor shall uphold the humble in attitude. Whoever is partner with a thief hates his own life. He hears cursing and reveals it not. In other words, he hears people planning and doesn't tell. The fear of man brings a trap, but whosoever puts his trust in Yahuwah shall be safe. Many seek the ruler's favor, but every man's judgment comes from Yahuwah. An unjust man is detestable or is an abomination to the just. And he that is upright in the way is detestable to the wicked. Notice that the wicked hate the righteous, and the righteous don't like the wicked. That's the way it is, the way it should be. Chapter 30. The words of Agar, the son of Yeka, even the prophecy, the man spake unto Athel, even unto Athel, and Ukal, Surely I am more ignorant. Brutish here would have been better translated ignorant. Surely I am more ignorant than any man, and have not the understanding of a man. I neither learned wisdom, nor have the knowledge of the set apart or the holy. Who hath ascended into the Shamayim, or descended? Asking a question. Who has ascended into the Shamayim, or heaven, or descended? And when this was written, only the Ruach, that was who ascended and descended. The Malach of Yahuwah, the Ruach HaKadosh, who hath gathered the winds in his fist, same one, who hath bound the waters in a garment, who hath established all the ends of the earth. What is his name? And it'll go right back to Yahuwah. And what is his son's name? If you cannot tell, and his son's name is Yahushua. Okay, some say Yahweh and Yeshua. Okay, some say Jehovah and some say Jesus. I don't agree with that one, but there it is. It's a different translation, though, of the names. Okay. Verse 5. Every word of Eloah, singular, is pure. He is a shield unto them that put their trust in him. Add you not unto his words. Don't add or take away, lest he reprove you, and you be found a liar. And let every man be found a liar, and let Yahuwah be found to be true. I added that. 7. 2 things have I required of you. Deny me them not before I die. Remove far from my vanity or worthlessness and lies. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with food convenient for me. Lest I be full and deny him, or you, talking about Yahuwah, and say, who is Yahuwah? Or lest I be poor and steal and take the name of my Elohim in vain. Accurse not a servant unto his master, lest he curse you, and you be found guilty. And vengeance is mine, saith Yahuwah. I keep adding that. There is a generation that curses their father and does not bless their mother. This is a generation that are pure in their own eyes. They think they're the greatest and nobody else knows anything, and yet is not washed from their filthiness. There is a generation, oh how lofty are their eyes, and their eyelids are lifted up. I can see that in the people that claim to be of Yahuwah. They're always judging somebody else, but they don't even take time to clean themselves. Okay? So it's important to recognize this for what it's talking about. He says, there is a generation whose teeth are as swords, and their jaw teeth as knives, to devour the poor from off the earth, and the needy from among men. Heard him say, we don't need to help them people. They're lazy. They don't want to do nothing. That's not what the book says. 15. The horse leash or the bridle has two daughters crying, give, give. Okay, that's what they're crying. There are three things that are never satisfied. Yes, four things say not. It is enough. The grave, there's never enough to fill the grave. And the barren womb, never anything in it, it's barren. The earth that is not filled with water, never enough water then. And the fire that saith not, it is enough. In other words, it never gets enough wood. It's unquenchable that way. And that fire was talking about the lake of fire. 17, the eye that mocks at his father and despises to obey his mother. The ravens of the valley shall pick it out. This is where the eagles gather. There will the carcasses be in Matthew 24. Let's read that again. This is who those are going to be. The carcasses are going to be the eye that mocks at his father and despises to obey his mother. The ravens of the valley shall pick it out, and the young eagles shall eat it. There be three things which are too wonderful for me, yes, four which I know not. The way of an eagle in the air, in other words, how it flies. The way of a serpent, how it moves upon a rock. I added moves upon. The way of a ship in the midst of the sea, how it moves. And the way of a man with a maid. Such is the way of an adulterous woman. She eats and wipes her mouth and says, I have done no wickedness. See, that's how Israel was. That's what the comparison is here. Israel did all those things against the word of Yahuwah and said, I have done nothing wrong. Did not repent, did not confess. For three things the earth is disquieted, and for four which it cannot bear. For a servant when he reigns, in other words, a servant's not supposed to be the leader is supposed to be the leader, and a fool when he is filled with food. For an unloved woman when she is married, and a handmaid that is heir to her mistress. 24. There be four things which are little upon the earth, but they are exceedingly wise. Now, these aren't people, but they compare them to people. The ants are a people not strong. In other words, they're very small, but they are very strong, but they're not strong in comparison to us. Yet they prepare their food in the summer. They work all summer and they prepare for the winter. The conies, or goats, wild goats, are but a feeble folk, yet make their houses in the rocks, in the mountains. The locusts have no king or no leader, yet go they forth, all of them by bands. Great big masses of them. The spider takes hold with its hands and is in the king's palaces. There by three things which go well, yes, four are comingly or stately in going. A lion which is strong among the beasts and turns not away for any. A greyhound, and they tell you here perhaps that's an extinct animal. We know what a greyhound is today. I don't think they had them then, but I'm not positive of that. A greyhound a greyhound and he goat also, and a king against whom there is no rising up, a tyrant. If you have done foolishly in lifting up yourself, or if you have thought evil, lay your hand upon your mouth. In other words, if you've got any wickedness in you that you're wanting to spit out of your mouth, because that tongue is an unruly thing, who can know it? Okay? But if anything gets ready to come out of your mouth like that, put your hand over your mouth. Surely the churning of milk brings forth butter. In other words, you say evil things, it's going to bring forth evilness on you. And the ringing, get a hold of one page here. And the ringed nose brings forth blood. You try putting a ring through your nose, you're going to see bleed. And they do that with hogs all the time. So the ring that goes through your nose brings forth blood. So the forcing of anger brings forth strife. And that's fairly obvious, isn't it? If you do that, strife's going to bring strife, and you're going to find that strife in the lake of fire at some point. Proverbs 31, the final proverb. The words of King Lemuel, the prophecy that his mother taught him. What, my son? What, my son? And what, the son of my womb? And what, the son of my vows? Her wedding vows. Give not your strength unto women. In other words, don't be sowing your wild oats, nor your ways to that which destroys kings, which is riches. It is not for kings, O Lemuel, it is not for kings to drink wine, okay, to give yourself to wine, nor for princes strong drink, lest they drink and forget the Torah, and pervert the judgment of any of the afflicted or the oppressed. Give strong drink unto him that is ready to perish. You ever see somebody that's laying on the ground? A lot of times in westerns, they'll give them a drink of whiskey right before they die. So that's what this is saying. Give strong drink unto him that is ready to perish, and wine unto those that be of a heavy heart, or they're in anguish. Let him drink and forget his poverty, and remember his misery no more. Open your mouth for the dumb in the cause. In other words, people that can't speak for themselves, that can't do anything to protect themselves. Open your mouth for the dumb in cause of all such as are appointed to destruction. Okay, that's what you do to those that are appointed to destruction. You open your mouth for those that are unable to do their cause. Open your mouth, judge righteously. How do you do that? According to the right rulings of the Most High. And plead the cause of the poor and the needy. That's who you plead the cause for. Who can find a virtuous woman? This virtuous woman they're talking about again is the bride. For her price is far above rubies. And that's what she wants to reserve her son for. The heart of her husband does safely trust in her. The one that's righteous with her husband. So that he shall have no need of spoil. He doesn't have to worry about her cheating. She will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. Again, this is talking about the bride of our Mashiach now. She seeks wool and flax and works willingly with her hands. That's how we're supposed to be, okay? Metaphorically, okay? She is like the merchant ships. She brings her food from afar. She rises also while it is yet night, and gives and provides food to her household and a portion to her maids. She confides a field and buys it. She considers a field, she looks upon it, she considers it, and she buys it with the fruit of her hands. She plants a vineyard. She girds her loins with strength and strengthens her arms. She perceiveth that her merchandise is good. Her candle goes not out by night. She lays her hands to the spindle, and her hands hold the distaff. She stretches out her hand to the poor. Yes, she reaches forth her hands to the needy. And again, this could be talking about a wife, a good physical wife, but this is talking about the bride. She is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with the best. And that's talking about that wedding garment. She makes herself coverings of tapestry. Her clothing is silk and purple. Her husband is known in the gates. Okay? When he sits among the elders of the land. That's talking about our Mischief ultimately. She makes the fine linen and sells it, and delivers waistbands unto the merchants. Strength and honor are her clothing, and she rejoices in time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and her tongue is the Torah of kindness, the right ruling of kindness. She looks well to the ways of her household, and eats not the bread of idleness. Her sons arise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. And her husband would be the Messiah, the Mashiach. Many daughters have done virtuously, but you excellest them all. That's talking about the bride. For favor is deceitful and beauty is worthless. But a woman that fears Yahuwah, she shall be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates. And that's the end of the book of Proverbs. And if you like what you've read here, or heard here, go and share this video on your pages. And give us the thumbs up. Okay? And hit the subscribe button. And hit that notification bell so you get the next one. We'll be jumping next into the book of Ecclesiastes. Very, very good, another good book to add to this expository teaching that we're doing. And again, may Yahuwah bless until we meet again.